You boys look like a weird heavy metal band.
Yes, we are a band.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you play?
Symphonic, post-apocalyptic, reindeer-grinding, Christ-abusing, extreme war, pagan, Fennoscandic metal.
Right. Really interesting.
Hey, you! Show me them boobies!
What up, everyone? DJ Nubis with you on the Military Radio podcast, doing my top 10 adult film actresses of all time. And I'm kind of just feeling my way through this. Basically because it's going to be on YouTube, on the internet, I got to be a little bit PG about how I approach this, because obviously I'm not going to be putting up nudity, sexual scenes, and stuff like that. Plus, I had to be walking around, like some of the stuff I had to edit out of some of the clips I had because they mentioned sucking D. You know what I'm talking about, right? So I have to be careful about what I say and do on this video, because I'm just trying to make it about the women involved, how I feel like they perform, and as far as like their career, their films, the sensuality they bring forth, etc. I debated whether or not I wanted to talk about a whole lot of other stuff. I'm gonna just kind of lightly go over some of the stuff within the porn industry, because down the road I may end up having a deeper talk, but I want to kind of get a panel of people together when I do that, because it's a topic that can affect people different ways. And so this particular video, though, is not to be like a debate about your own personal moral beliefs. It's more just a simple appreciation for the women involved in the course of my years of being a man and what I've observed in the porn industry and films and stuff like that. Now, personally, I have had the pleasure occasionally, I'm on Twitter or X, conversing with porn stars, in current and former, individuals like Jenna Hayes and a few others who you can have normal conversations with, like just in terms of like, they're just like you and me, man. They have their ups and downs in life, and they have their political beliefs and stuff like that. So, yeah. So like, in real life, these women are very friendly, and I have never really had any issues. Like, I've never met any in person, so it could be a whole lot different, but judging by how I converse with them on the internet and social media, it just never seems to be a problem. They're always pretty open about their lives and stuff like that. One thing I will say, and it actually will reflect a lot in my list, and I don't know how it'll affect other people's lists. I know Crypt was going to kind of wanting to do this with me, but it's hard to get people together to do these kinds of things. And again, you have to kind of walk on eggshells, because you can't just come out and start showing their highlights of what they do on screen. So, but a lot of the classic movies that I grew up with. So even if you're looking at like 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, right? But probably before 2003. Most of the adult films that I've watched, you can have your kinkiness and stuff like that, but then it's also very passionate and lustful. But it's not, when I look at a lot of films since 2005, even though I enjoy some of the beauty of the eroticism of some of these actresses out there within the last 20 years, the movies themselves are very violent. I'm not going to go on a limb and say, hey, yeah, this is creating problems for men. It might be in some cases contributing to something that's already a problem with some boys and men, but I'm not going to say this is the reason why men get violent with women. I know some people try to make that correlation, but they try to do that shit with horror movies, music. I don't buy into that bullshit because I think that if you're someone who's doing ill will to anybody, especially women, there's already something fucking wrong with you. And some of that shit existed long before porn was even a thing. So if you have someone who's already got problems, sure, this stuff can maybe contribute in some way to like just kind of like give you ideas of stupid shit that you're going to do to people. And that's, but it's in no way saying that we should ban these things or censor them or anything like that. You just have to be a grown up adult. And parenting is a big thing with your kids as well. So it's just common sense about how you approach entertainment in general. But I do notice that when it comes to like a lot of the filmmaking today, you can take some of the most gorgeous women and, you know, they're kind of like, I don't know, the most gorgeous women, but then they're also like doing some very violent stuff or taking some sort of like violent acts against them. So the slapping, the spitting in the face, the over rough type sex. Like, you know, it's okay to be aggressive in some ways because we're all primal in that way. But I don't know, like you take it like a website like Passion HD, which approaches it more delicately. And that's the kind of shit that I like. It's not that the woman's not going to get the shot in the face in terms of the money shot, but the reality is it's still done in a more romantic and emotional feeling way. And so that's kudos to those actors who were able to perform on that level. So like, you know, one thing is like Pirates 2, right? So this has a lot of the girls from Wicked, a lot of beautiful women in the industry, Jenna Hayes being one of them. But the sex is really just, you know, you kind of get turned on by it just because they are beautiful, but that's also sort of a detractment because the sex is so like aggressive and overly rough when it doesn't need to be. So I don't know. Like I enjoyed the film because Evan Stone as a male performer is hilarious. He's got a great knack for comedy within the porn industry. And the girls are good. You know, like I said, they're good actors in that realm. And even some have gone the mainstream kind of stuff. But the sex itself is not a big selling point for me in the modern age. And so I would have liked to seen that kind of movie with the kind of budget it had, because it was kind of like a high budget. It's almost like your Pirates of the Caribbean type vibe. I would have liked to seen more standard, passionate, lustful sex rather than like, you know, it's fucking crazy. Like you don't really need all that. It's to me that's just kind of like a detriment to what's going on. It's hard to enjoy that film because of those aspects. Now, whether or not the women involved, you know, obviously they sign these contracts. They know what they're kind of getting into. They're familiar with each other, familiar with the actors. Whether or not that's something the director wanted or just what they wanted as performers, they would have to answer that. I don't know. I just know that that wouldn't be something that I'm really, really into. So it's hard when I watch some of these younger actresses, like in videos, to really kind of get into that kind of sex because it's just so overly violent in a way that just isn't very much of a turn on. Which is a shame because they're so beautiful. There's a lot of great looking women out there in the industry, and you know, it's just a shame. Other issues that have come up, you know, like I haven't really dived into this, but again, if I ever have like another like say a global unscripted talk about this, where I'll have like a panel of people discussing this very thing, is how I know that some actresses and actors, when they go into certain sets at different points in time for work, that they're kind of mistreated there. Like I don't remember who the actress was. Very beautiful. I think it was during her early years of getting into it. So they kind of like did this little doc on her. And she was her scenes, like even though the male actors were trying to like calm her down and convey to her that it's all just part of the script, like they were so aggressive, and the sex itself was very violent. She was breaking down in tears. That was like a really bad experience for her. And so again, like I don't know, like if I was even in the industry directing, I would never direct those kind of films. It just isn't a turn on for me. And it's not really something I'd want to portray in that kind of industry anyway, because it just wouldn't make a lot of sense to me, you know. Because you want the ordinary people to connect. And you sort of, I mean, obviously there's this fantasy world that we do within any movie industry, even the adult film industry, but you still want to bring it down on a level that people could connect with. Like it's one thing to do a medieval fantasy flick where you're dressed up as elves and stuff, but even then I've seen stuff like that where it's not near as violent as what we see today. So yeah, so but I can't imagine, I don't know how much of this is the women just saying, signing off and saying, yeah, I accept whatever, you know, the male performer is doing, which would be unfortunate. So I hope that the women in the industry take a little more power in that regard about what they want. Now, some women probably don't mind it. Like one woman that I kind of enjoy is Tory Lane. But she kind of seems to like that rough play, and I'm just like, she's too beautiful to be dealing with that. Like that's not me. I can't do that spitting and hitting in the face, and it just doesn't do anything for me. Like I don't really get off on that shit. The other thing is like really within the last while now, like I mean, obviously, you know, when you think about the porn industry, it's a small percentage of the society, right? But when you look at the suicide rate and, you know, the overdose rate and stuff like that, it's pretty high. And so I will say this, because there's always these debates when it comes to suicide. Like, and let's take August Ames, right? She made a tweet where she was saying she didn't want to work with any bisexual performers because she felt like maybe they might have diseases. Now, here's the thing. She should have known that in that industry, people are tested. Doesn't mean it's perfect. I've heard horror stories where performers got AIDS or something, but a lot of times that's like on these really low brand studios that don't do testing like they should be. But for the most part, I think on the higher level stuff, men and women are tested very frequently to make sure that doesn't happen. And you also have the use of condoms and everything else. But she made a comment that she doesn't want to work with bisexual actors who have been in gay porn. Got a lot of backlash from obviously the gay and lesbian community. A lot of people in her own industry were pushing back on her. There was a couple dudes saying some god awful things. One dude told her to eat a cyanide pill. Both those guys came back after she killed herself and apologized, but it just kind of shows that like the bullying and harassment can come from anyway. Like one dude even doubled down and said, well, I just want her to understand that's exactly how gay people feel with the harassment. I'm like, hold up. Two wrongs don't make a right here, dude. And so good on Jenna Jameson to call that motherfucker out for his bullshit, because you don't respond in a way that if you know it hurts your own community, you don't fucking do that to people. I'm not going to hold these guys responsible for her taking her life because she had a lot of demons. I've dealt with depression and suicidal thoughts my entire life. And I've never at one point would sit there and say that it's somebody else's fault that I would take my own life. Never would do that. Because in the end, if I ever did, it's my choice. If I felt like life was not worth living, that would be my choice. It wouldn't be anybody else's fault. No matter if there's like harassment, bullshit going on, people being mean to me, like even though that could be like a downer, it's not going to be the reason why I would take my life. And I don't hold anybody accountable for when these women do it, because clearly they're already facing, it's not just women, men do it too. They've taken their lives as well, but it's because they're already dealing with a lot of demons. And some of the ones more recent years is Cagney Lynn Carter, Olivia Lua, Savannah, she was a very big actress back in the day. August Ames, I talked about. Karen Lancaume, Megan Leigh, Shauna Grant, Jessie Jane, although it wasn't confirmed whether or not it was a suicide because she was found dead with a partner from an overdose, but who knows. Yurzan Beltran and Dakota Sky are just to name a few that have taken their own lives over the last few years. So it can show you some of the mental health issues that pervade in there because I grew up hearing the horror stories about a lot of porn stars that had like issues with daddy touching them or rape or whatever, and so they kind of break into this industry thinking that sex is going to kind of make it all better, and the money and all that, and the drugs and the partying. But yeah, it's like anything else. They all have their own demons, in terms of whether or not they can handle it. Some women who get in this industry do just fine. They become directors. They become empowered by their sexuality, and that's that's kind of how that runs. Anyway, enough of the downer stuff. I just wanted to kind of preface that a little bit about the industry and some of the stuff that does go on within it. I'm going to have a little more fun now. Coming back to my top 10, but first I'm going to give you my runners up. And the thing is, like, there are so many actresses that I find adorable, sexy, exotic, whatever, over the years. And, trying to come down to 10 is like very difficult, depending on what day it is too. But I've always had kind of my own favorites, but I'm going to pop up a little thing here for you all to look at. It's like my runners up. It's a pretty big list, and it probably doesn't include everybody. So, but I'm going to give you just, who I think is close.
Just a bit outside.
So here we go. And that is the list that you can see there. Some big names in there too. So you're probably like, how are they out of your top 10, dude? I don't get it. But there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful women in this. Very good on film. Some of these are newer. They also, again, they kind of comes across as not every scene they've ever been is violent sex, but there's a few that have dealt with that, which I don't really like those particular scenes, but yeah. So that's the runners up there. All right. So let's get into my top 10 and move this down a little bit. Pop this up. All right. So at number 10, an American actress. I don't know why I put that there, but anyway, here's number 10. I think I pronounced this correctly, hopefully. It's pronounced Aslia Antistia, and she's at number 10. Now, I've always found her very exotic. Her eyes are mesmerizing. One of my favorite adult films that she's in is, and in fact, it has like a great cast. It's like an amazing film. And there's another girl in there. I think they call her Victoria or something, but I haven't seen too much of her work, and it's hard to find info on her because in this movie, this other chick is like amazing in it. A lot of fun. Clearly enjoys what she's doing. Same with Aslia here. And yeah, so I'm going to give you like a little taste of just, I had to like mute this because she does say some dirty things and I didn't want that to get nabbed by YouTube. Like hopefully none of this does because it is like a sensitive topic in general about sex. So, yeah, so the movie that I really enjoy with her is called Roommates, and I believe it's from 2000 or 99, somewhere in there. And so here's a little thing where she's actually talking to, I guess, an interviewer or a guy just videoing her, but it could be from a movie too. I don't know. It's just a small clip, but just look at how beautiful her eyes are, and they just kind of call out to you. Apparently, this was this person's second favorite. Yeah, she's a pretty mesmerizing chick, and especially in Roommates, man. She is very good at acting. Like that's how you can kind of sell a movie in general is when the actress can both perform very well sexually on screen, but then like as well as like sell the acting part, like the mannerisms, the silliness of it all, like whether it's a comedic take on it or just serious take on the script that they're working with. So yeah, just a very, very sensual chick. Yeah, it doesn't get any more of that. Sorry guys, can't give any more of that. But she was active in the industry from 98 to 2003, so not very long. She was about 22 years old when she started, and definitely up there in my list. Just because, even if it's more so just from that particular movie, because it stands out so much to me, and really, really worth it. All right. At number 9, this chick was active from 84 to 88. So again, kind of only a 4-year period, but you have to understand sometimes these actresses can do almost 300 movies within that span. Like it's weird because there's some women in the industry that are able to go a long time. Jenna Jameson, Jenna Hayes, Ginger Lynn, even like some of the older ones are still kind of doing. I think Ginger Lynn is still kind of active, at least in directing and whatnot. You have seen some of her older self doing, the MILF films or whatever. But it is quite amazing that they can do so much in such a short time that it's almost like burnout, like I guess, because you can do a shit ton of movies in a short amount of time. But at number 9 is an American actress, Angel West, and some of my favorite stuff with her is Confessions of a Candy Stripper, The Loves of Lolita. She's just very gorgeous. She's still kicking around today, and I don't think she's in the industry anymore. I think she is retired. 57 years old. I don't know if she ever goes to any of the, like, I don't know how like the porn cons work when you go to meet porn stars and get autographs and pictures. Like, I don't know if there's like the older ones that just show up and sign autographs and stuff. I don't know. Like maybe it is. I would hope so, that there's like this ability to connect with some of the older ones and show your appreciation for what they have done in the industry and stuff like that. So yeah, that's Angel West at number 9. Number 8 is Angela Sommers. Again, this one here was active from 1990 to 2000. She actually started a little later in her age. She was about 26 when she started. But she has a lot of great scenes with mainly Tom Byron and Peter North. Some of the films that I liked her in were Snatch to the Future, Stripper Nurses, and stuff like that. I do have a short clip where she's talking with an interviewer, and if I couldn't do this because this guy, like, he handles it like a pro. I'm sure this kind of shit goes on with the flirtation and whatnot. Whether or not she's even serious, probably not. But still, I'd be like, really? You wanna go in the back? One of these things. But very fun-loving chick. And here's a little thing she did with this guy.
Summers.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so what have you guys been doing?
Oh, we've been just roaming around doing interviews, and this is the first time here at CES. It's huge. It's it's massive. I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. You
mean you haven't gotten laid yet?
You mean here? Not yet.
Not yet. I might have to take care of him.
Yeah, we have to arrange that. Since we're not strangers anymore, I'm gonna have to bring that up because it's an inside thing. But anyways.
Inside? Inside what?
In and out, in and out. But anyways, so I want to ask you something. You retired from the business, right?
Yeah,
Now,
I'm retired.
You're not doing any movies.
No.
Now, what are you doing right now?
Right now I work for Adult Stars Magazine, which is a website, and I answer all their questions, and I do their publicity and marketing. And then I also work for The Sex Files, which is a TV show. And then I also run my own website, www.angelsummers.com. And I also go on the road and I tour and dance, and I also do layouts. Oh wait, did I go on? No.
Ceremonial gift here. I want to give this to you.
T-shirt. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll have to wear it and take a picture in it, and then show you the picture. I'll give you the picture.
Oh, he was trying to go in for the lip kiss. He was doing the cheek, and he's like, "Hey, try to be a sly dog, man. You can't do that shit. Come on now." All right. The next one I have is one of my favorites. Whenever I'm in the mood for those kind of things. Goes back to her time in the industry, which I always thought she was more of the, well, I mean, she is kind of in the 70s a little bit. She was active during 77 to 87, and she started around 23 years old. And that is the lovely Dorothy LeMay. And people probably would know her best from films like Taboo and Taboo 2. It was the whole like movies about like the father or the mother and son incest stuff that they were tabooing at the time. And, you know, you get that occasionally within the industry, which people frown upon, but, you know, again, fetishes and all that. But her scenes mainly for, at least in the Taboo one, was she was dating what was the dude's name? Mike Ranger, I think, is the actor. And he was the son of the mother, which, you know, anyway, you can always look that shit up yourself if you want to know more about that. But those are the movies she's more familiar with. She's an American actress. And just so everyone knows, Angela Summers is also an American actress. I want to make sure to point those things out when I can. Yeah, so definitely one of my favorites. LeMay just had this ability to, especially when it came to like oral pleasure, man. She like knew how to smile for the camera and knew how to make it work. Clearly enjoyed the camera work being on her while she was doing their scenes. And that's the thing, like you kind of miss that nowadays. Whenever I watch a modern porn video, it's not often with, unfortunately, again, you have all these beautiful actresses, but they're not always able to convey the very things that you would want out of like a video in general, which is, it's more than just looking at the camera. It's more than just dropping your lines. Like you have to feel it. And I've seen, and I know other people probably feel the same way. You've seen actresses where they kind of look dead. Like they just don't want to be there. They're not into it. Whatever the case may be, like, you know, you are a performer. So the reality is either you're not really good at it or you're in the wrong business, because in the end, it's about selling yourself and selling the product and selling the scene. And I find that a lot of that is missing on most modern movies that I've seen. Like, you know, even though I went back to Pirates 2 and talked about how the sex itself is pretty distasteful, the acting is top notch. Every single one of them knows what they're doing. You're talking about Jenna Hayes, Evan Stone, Sasha Grey, Belladonna, just like they know how to command the screen. And so it's not, that isn't the issue there. Like they know what they're doing and they know how to sell it, but the sex itself, the type of sex is just what's a turn off at that point in that movie. Maybe if Pirates and Pirates 2 is made back in the 90s, it might come off a lot differently than it does now, which would probably be beneficial. There's actually, even to my knowledge, there's like a soft core version of those movies that you can watch that don't have the penetration and all that. So, and maybe that's even better. Like for people that don't want the like over aggressive sex, that'd probably be a better way to go. Although you won't get the money shots and stuff like that, but yeah. All right. Where are we at? We are number 6. Definitely one of my favorites, and this is I've talked about it a little bit before we got started. So at number 6, a French young lady, Karen Lancaume, and gorgeous, gorgeous eyes. She's also one that commands the screen very well. Her activity was from 96 to 2000. She was about 23 when she started. She unfortunately is one that had taken her life, and it's very depressing to think about. But the more I kind of read up on her story, the more that I learned that, she had apparently come from a pretty wealthy family. Of course, I don't know if this is all confirmed, but that's the story there. And, she came from a wealthy family, but she kind of fell for this DJ in a club, and they hit it off, and they were a couple. And then they both ran into like debt issues. And so he wanted to start shooting porn with her to kind of make some money. And the thing is, though, he was not very well endowed, and he couldn't perform on camera. So eventually it meant that she was going to be performing with other guys. Now, she made a comment at one point that, any guy that loves his girl does not encourage her to do this. This is true, but I think at the same time, she needs to kind of be held accountable to her own person. Like, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you shouldn't be doing it. Now, whether or not there was any kind of violence from him to her to force her to do that, I don't know. I don't know much of that backstory. But she had talked about on some different interviews that she really, really hated the industry. She didn't like doing what she was doing. And she ended up doing like some movie. It's in French, but her and another actress had done like a more mainstream movie where they played former porn stars who were out for revenge against some guys. It was like an action flick. But apparently it's been banned. Like apparently it's supposedly pretty edgy for its time, I guess. I don't know. I have to see if I can find it. But to my knowledge, that's really the brunt of it. But the scenes, especially in the Italian market, which I think she was predominantly in, was fucking amazing, dude. Like she just commands the screen, like she knows what she's doing. And so like no matter how much she might have hated that industry, dude, she had a knack for it. Like she sold it. And but she admits, she wanted to be an actress, so that's clearly part of it too. So I mean, she's one of those gals that you look at her and you say, yeah, she could have made it as like a Hollywood starlet on some level, right? Even without the porn industry, she could have made it as a big star because she just has that presence and that persona and exudes sexuality. So certainly one of my favorites, and deserves to be in my top 10. All right. Well, this gal at number 5 will not be a shocker and not a stranger to most people. Oh, I do want to pause this up just in tribute. Rest in peace, my darling. All right. Next gal up, number 5. Again, no stranger to people. Probably one of the most popular, most popular actress of all time, maybe in the porn industry, is Ginger Lynn. And again, there's like a running theme with me is these chicks know how to command the screen. Ginger is one of those that was able to cross over into mainstream very well. So you probably saw her in stuff like Young Guns 2. We're going back to like 89, I think. And then Devil's Rejects, the Rob Zombie movie. She's in there. Obviously, these are all kind of like cameos and stuff. She was active. She's still active. This is one I was talking about, 84 to 2023. So she still kind of does stuff. Now, she probably does a lot more directing at this point, I'm assuming. But I do think she probably still does some, sex scenes as well. There's always a market for the MILFs and the, all that cougar stuff. But, the other thing about Ginger was a big story with her way back when was there was this kind of like war going on between, because if anybody follows the industry at all, and has a history with it, like about Tracy Lords, who actually broke into the mainstream and did pretty well. But she got her start in adult films, and there was much debate about her age when she started, like whether or not she lied on her license and stuff like that. I can't remember what the details were. It's been a while. I don't remember all that kind of stuff, but Ginger pushed back hard on her because I think what it was is that Tracy tried to imply that the industry took advantage of her, maybe coaxed her into lying about her age. And then Ginger was pushing back saying, no fucking way. Like, she knew how old she was. She came into the industry, and, she doesn't have any love lost for Tracy, I don't think. But it was a big kind of fight back then. And I remember the first video that Tracy mainstream one that I saw was Shock 'Em Dead, which is good under a low budget horror film if you've never seen it. Crosses over with music and metal and stuff and horror. So and Tracy looks fabulous in it, but of course you've probably seen her in Blade. What's the other one? Shit, it's another horror, 2012, I think. But she plays like a Christian mom, which is hilarious. But she's a good actress. She's been in horror films a lot. So kudos to Tracy. And I don't have any problems with Ginger either. Like, I don't know enough about the ins and outs of that debate and what happened there, but I respect both ladies immensely. I do have a little bit of a clip for you for Ginger. I think this is kind of like some interview work.
Adult films are so accepted now. 40% of the people who rent films rent adult films. Everybody watches them, and it's a very accepted thing. The people watch.
This will probably be pretty dated too. Like, I don't know if Ginger's thoughts and point of view is the same. Obviously, she's still in the industry, so it probably are. She's not lying. Like, a lot of people get mad at the porn industry and its effect, how they feel on society, but it doesn't matter if it's like advertising for beer or even when we watch Hollywood films, like sex appeal always plays a part. So the sex industry is very big, whether it's escorts, porn stars or whatever. Like, it's a big industry and it sells big time. And so it's a matter of just consumption at this point and all that stuff, but it's still a big part of it.
My films are mainly the yuppie crowd. They're 35 and under. They're couples. They're women. They're not the people who used to watch it, the raincoat crowd per se. They're nice people.
That picture doesn't do you justice.
Bob Belson.
Would you care to join me? I'm just having some champagne.
Thank you. You make a habit out of not attending your own parties?
You make a habit out of breaking into men's homes?
Touché.
I'm a private person. I like private encounters.
I don't kiss and tell. What gives you the right to butt into my life?
Hey, who's butting into your life?
Ginger's adult catalog features such classic films as Those Young Girls, Deep Inside Ginger, Night of Loving Dangerously, New Wave Hookers, Girls on Fire, Jailhouse Girls, Taboo 4, China and Silk, The Pink Lagoon, Blame It on Ginger, Ginger on the Rocks, and several of the Electric Blues series films.
Ginger on the Rocks. But yeah, so there you go. A little bit of Ginger there. Did have a little bit more to the video, but there's no need to play exorbitant around a lot of that. But, a little bit of taste of how she looked back then and now. Let's see. Number 4. Moving our way up. It's funny. Like I said, I kind of go back and forth sometimes with actresses. Even now, as I think about stuff, I think of actresses that I didn't even have in my runners up list. I probably should have been, but too many, man, too many to count. But this one's always a staple. Obviously, I have a little clip of her as well. Gorgeous chick, American actress, just like Ginger. She's been in films like Nikki Loves Rocco, which is a fabulous fucking movie, by the way. Bedlam, and that, of course, is the lovely Nikki Tyler. And I remember seeing, this is like way back too. So obviously at the height, we're talking like early 2000s, because I try to watch research stuff like on the industry and whatnot for like documentaries, life after porn, those kind of movies and stuff. But there was one thing that Nikki was doing with another actor, and I'm trying to think of who it was. I want to say Tony Tedeschi, but I'm not really sure. But her and Tony were getting plasters of their nether regions. So this is like when the whole fake vagina stuff was being made, but it was like molds after them. So I kind of guess this had to be like back in the 90s. I don't know. I don't know when the original date was this started, but it's been a while. But you had the plasters, and then of course the men would get their plasters of their nether regions and their phallics and everything. And so, but I remember it was kind of funny because these people are used to being nude in front of people, so obviously whoever's doing the plaster has to see them nude. So she's there and she's got her legs open or whatever, how they're gonna coat this stuff on to get it to harden and do that. But whoever the male actor was, comes in and is like, they know each other. They're kind of just kissing friendly hello, and then he starts tapping her down there and they get her all excited, and it's really kind of funny. And then of course he's getting he's got to be aroused to do it. She's helping him out, she's fluffing him. I'm like, that must be the best job ever, man, as long as you get to finish. But yeah, so here's a little clip of Nikki Tyler. Oops, sorry, wrong one.
Nikki Tyler. Actually, I have signed the contract, but I don't know if I'm going to actually follow through with it. I actually, today where I went was to the office, and I had to renegotiate some things, move some things around, how I want them to be, and I didn't think he would, so I thought that would be how I would get out of it, but he did change it out to be the way I wanted it to be. So one thing about that company is they are very willing to work with the girls on what they feel comfortable doing, what they will do, what they won't do. They definitely don't push you to do anything you don't want to do. This kind of all.
She didn't seem very convinced there. No offense, but she didn't look really convinced about all that. But she could have been just putting her thoughts together. But you hear these stories, like I was talking about. Now she says that the girls do get to choose. Now maybe the industry is worse off than it was back then, even though I think probably the earliest days of the adult film industry is probably worse than it was in the 80s or 90s. You would think everything would be a little bit better now, but who knows? Because in the age of the internet, we know that you can become your own porn studio. You don't need all the other shit. You can just find some girls and start taking a camcorder and putting it on the internet, right? That's kind of how some of that shit started. That's why a lot of these industry types now are kind of upset about a lot of this, because it takes away from their own stardom and their own fan base. But see, the thing is, it's really just consumership right at this point. This is how music works too. Like a lot of these bigger bands were upset because of Napster and all this other stuff, and now the band camps and stuff. But the reality is, the market's just bigger now, and so people have more choice. And that's how capitalism works, man. Like you have to kind of deal with that. And so if people can find other ways to break into that industry without having to put up $15,000 for a studio or whatever, and they can't get these big actresses and actors to perform, well, then they can find people that will do this. But yeah, just look how fucking gorgeous she is, dude, really. But let's listen to a little more she's got to say.
Came about because I decided I was going to dance, and I've been doing makeup for them for a little over a year, and I have had the chance, and my husband has had the chance to see how things work in their company and how they run their sets and who works on the sets and who directs. And basically, I decided if I was going to do any movies that, at first I said I was going to do just girls. And then the owner offered for me and my husband to work.
That's cool.
And he didn't want to. But I also thought I didn't really want him to because he's got kind of a background of not having done this, and I kind of do, just from having done the magazine. So for me, it would just be one more step in the adult industry. For him, it'd be like taking this big leap into something that was going to affect his life. For me, basically, I've already done things where people go, "How can you do that?" But
Yeah. So, whoop, keep doing the wrong thing there. All right. Yeah, so it's interesting about that particular comment because it is kind of how it works with stars. Here's the funny thing, right? So for anybody who's familiar with the adult industry in general, take a guy like Peter North, one of the biggest male stars in the industry, known for his ability to blast women with love juice. But he started in gay porn, believe it or not. And I guess on some level you have to be bi to do that. I mean, I can't speak for Peter in this, but he started there and he said the money was really good for, like, apparently for gay porn is like really, really good. Maybe it's because there's not a lot of it now. Maybe there's more of it now than there was back in the day when he started, but he came over to the female side and he just became like this huge star. And so I thought it was interesting how his background, like you would never imagine, because how much movies he's done with women. Now he prefers to be with women, obviously, but I just found that part of his history a bit interesting in terms of his beginnings. But Nikki, with actresses, like it does kind of start like that. Like a lot of these chicks, they get recruited out of these strip clubs. So you could be a pretty young girl trying to make money for college or whatever. And, if you got sex appeal and you're doing really well, some of these people, these guys who do these adult films go into these clubs and they look for women specifically that they think that will be good for on film stuff. And, it starts there. So then they recruit you. And as Nikki said, you might start out doing girl because one, either you do have like a boyfriend or somebody who's not in the industry, or two, you're telling yourself that I'm not going to go full-fledged because I want to be able to keep my, I guess you could say, respectability intact a little bit. Most people don't frown too much on the girl stuff. But then it's money. So then it moves to, well, I'll get to another point here that I've learned, but it goes to, okay, let's do anal. Well, that pays you more money. How about interracial? Pays you more money. It's taboo. There is a thing also with some stars who started like during the 2000s. Chrissy Moran, for instance, now she's a born-again Christian, so she's no longer in the industry, but she started out doing just strictly like photos, solo photo shoots and stuff. Beautiful girl. But then she eventually got into the hardcore stuff. And they often tell, like, a lot of these girls that get started on the web, like as far as like Girl Next Door, just doing solo shoots and stuff, they get advice from a lot of people in the porn industry and say, yeah, don't give yourself away right away. Make them earn it. So stay like into the solo stuff, like the photos and stuff, as long as you can. Maybe move into girl, and then just kind of spread it out. That's they figure how you can make a career in the industry is by not rushing everything, because you don't want to burn yourself out as a name in a short time. And so that's how they tell girls now, is like, we're going to start slow, we're going to build you up and then get you into the heavier stuff. So Nikki's not really wrong there in the sense that she had a background and they probably recruited her and said, like she was saying, that they said, yeah, we think you'd be good in film. Duh. Now, I don't know how it was she went from, like, how it worked with her boyfriend in terms of, like, if he didn't want to do it on screen, how did she end up moving to guys on screen? Was it something that the guy was able to accept, or did they split? What exactly happened there with that? So I don't know. I might go on my own time, just kind of read up on that and see how that played out. All right. So number 3. Oh, wait. First, I want to say that the years active for Nikki was from 92 to 2003. For some reason, I thought she started in the late 80s, but 92, I guess. But some of my favorite films, like I said, Nikki Loves Rocco, Bedlam. Nikki Loves Rocco is a fucking amazing film. A lot of great looking girls. Fun story, good sex. Yeah, it's a really fun thing, a movie to watch. All right, now this one I keep fucking up and throwing up on there, but if you watched my video that I did with Crypt and Kevin Lambert and Tony the Dead, we did like our top screen queens, top 25 screen queens, right, of horror films. Well, one of the ones that made my list, of course, was at number 3 here, Brigitte Lahaie. And she's a French actress who did a lot of crossover, especially early. So it's kind of funny because she was able to kind of like her years of activity were 76 to 2006. But I think she actually slowed down a lot. Like I have to go back and I don't know. I have to go back and check her filmography, but she does like a podcast now talking about sex and stuff. Something like I don't want to say sex therapist, but sort of in that vein where she discusses sexuality and stuff like that. So good to her on that. But she had a lot of crossover films during the 70s. And so with director Gene, gosh, how am I forgetting the name? Shit. It'll come to me eventually. But she did movies like House of Fantasies, Secrets of the French Maid. Now, the more mainstream stuff she did in the horror genre was The Grapes of Death, Fascination. Oh, God, how am I forgetting the fucking name, dude? I'm so bad. I love this director. All right, but I do have a little tribute clip. I think I took the music out because I didn't know if it was going to cause an issue, but I probably won't play it all, but we'll get a little taste of Bridget here. Can't believe I forgot the fucking director. I'll look it up while you guys are checking this shit out. Jean Rollin. That's what it is. Fuck. Can't believe I forgot that. Grapes of Death is so fun. I don't know if I saw that one. Oh, so she acted with Uma Thurman, Kevin Spacey too. Huh. Fascination. There you go. Another great film. Got that recently. Got it signed by her as well as the big old book. I have a big old book on Bridget, her whole career. I still trying to read through it, dude. Like it's so amazing. I fucking love it. Can't really show you because there is nudity on the cover. So, girl was not afraid to get naked. Let me tell you. Eye for Icarus. I don't recognize that. Might try to seek that out. Although I think some of these, she was kind of like a just not really more like a small part. Like, it wasn't some of these mainstream stuff. So other than Faceless, she had a bigger part in that horror movie. But yeah, so Bridget's always going to be up there, dude. She, again, perfect, both on mainstream stuff as well as the porn. Like, the adult films she did, dude, again, she has a way of selling it. Now, it's a little different than what you see in like the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, because 70s, they either, because it's just rough in general how it's shot, or it's just that they were more concentrated on the actual sex rather than trying to sell the script. So but she knew how to sell the sex, no doubt about it. All right, number 2 definitely definitely is going to be up there entirely for me because of how much I love this chick. Her years of activity were 92 to 2005. She got her break, or yeah, basically got her break. She was dating actor Woody Long, who was a adult film performer, and he got her into the business, and she really like took off. Like, at first, like, normally they would spend time just doing scenes together and stuff like that, but then eventually they broke up, and then she kind of started doing other scenes with other actors and performers. But oh my god, dude, she sells the scene entirely, and that is, of course, Celeste. Not to be confused with Celeste Starr. This one way different, but her ability to sell the scenes was just flat out mind-boggling how great it was. Films like Sexy Nurses 2, Exposure, just incredible stuff from her, and cannot highly recommend her enough. Like, she's got a nice healthy list. I think she went on to get married after she quit and had kids and stuff. So I hope she's doing well, like, in general. Like, I know that I have to kind of wonder sometimes when these actresses are done and they have kids, like, how do they navigate like their kids finding out what they used to do? Because, like, the thing is, like, for me, I can appreciate them, I can hold respect for them, but society as a whole does not do that. And so, like, you do kind of put your kids at risk of having to kind of deal with that pressure from the stuff that you've done in the past. And until society gets a little more lenient and more forgiving and accepting of that, it's always going to kind of be like an issue there. All right, down to number 1. It's always been this one, even though for a long time I kept forgetting her fucking name because it kind of comes and goes. Her years activity from 98 to 2012. She's Hungarian. Just a note, Celeste was American, of course, but this one here at number 1, Julia Taylor, a Hungarian actress. So fucking amazing. Again, she did like a lot of, from what I could tell, a lot of like Italian type films, and Italian adult films are very great because it's if you have that fetish of sorts, like the CFNM, when you have clothed females and clothed males and they're having sex, it's almost like spontaneous in some cases. So I think that's one of the draws for me personally. I know I'm kind of selling myself out here with that, but that's one of those things where, like, with the Italian films, they were never shy about just making it all look like it's spontaneous. They didn't have to necessarily get totally naked and all assets to shoot these scenes and films and stuff. So I've always enjoyed that part of it. But Julia, again, knows how to sell the scenes. I can't really comment on the acting per se, because even though she does do a good job, like, it seems kind of bare bones sometimes. I don't know if it's because of the dubbing or whatever else is going on. Because like a lot of the films that I've seen her in are in a different language. So yeah. So that's it, folks. That's my list. Like, I can't get any more detailed in there with that. I do hope to have like a more in-depth discussion about the industry as a whole. And if I can find a way to swing it, man, like if I can plan it out perfectly, I will try to see if I can get Jenna or somebody to join us so they can give us more input. I know it's a big ask because I don't really have that kind of clout, but certainly I would love to have her break down some of the more of the ins and outs of the industry and like what it's like for someone like her to be in it from as a performer as to after the fact. One thing I'm not going to really say here because even though she put it out there on X publicly, I don't want to try to capitalize on her pain right now, but dating is an issue for them too. And so I would love to just kind of pick her brain on some of that. So I'm going to try to tag her when I post this on Twitter, but I don't want her to like feel obligated or anything to do it. I just see if I can find a time to have her join us and talk a little bit about the industry as a whole, because I find it very fascinating. Growing up, I used to sit there and say to myself, damn, I want to be a porn star. And then I started watching some of these docs, man. It's like, it's when we watch a film like that, you have to understand how much editing goes involved because you don't really realize some of the shots you're seeing is someone who's actually standing over the couple having sex. And like, you don't see it unless you have another camera and you can see the person. But when they finally put the movie together, it's just different scenes. You're not seeing all the other stuff outgoing. So it's pretty amazing how that plays out. But yeah, I don't know. I'll see how it goes, man. Like, I think I did a good job of tiptoeing around the more sensitive nature of this particular topic. And so hopefully YouTube won't nuke me in any way. Cause like, I think I did a good job of like not making it too risque. But yeah, there you go, folks. My top 10 adult film actresses of all time, according to me, and I'm not going to change it anytime soon. But tomorrow, we will be doing, let me see if I can pop up the thing here. Might have to grab it from, hold on one second. So tomorrow, Mr. Tony Adet and Neko and I at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern, we're going to do another Global Unscripted, and we're going to talk from nostalgia to nightmare. We're going to talk about the problem with movie remakes. And I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. In terms of how they compare what movies they should be trying to remake, etc. And then we're gonna do something that Neko came up with, revisiting history, the most offensive vintage ads. So if you ever go back and you kind of see some of the old ads from the 50s and the 60s, it's pretty crazy just the way that they viewed things, the way that they word things. And some of it's like downright scary. Like, we'll get into that with some of the shit that they were doing during that time. So yeah, be looking for that, man. We're gonna have a good discussion on that stuff. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. If you have any ideas for future content, feel free to share with me. Got any opinions about this? How does your list come out? Who do you like? Let me know. I'd be glad to know who you like the best. See you next time on the Middletown Radio Podcast.